everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. So we wanted to do things a little bit different on this podcast. The first little while, we're going to chat a little bit about stories and quote unquote failures that we've experienced that hopefully you can relate to. And again, the reason we want to do this is just so you get to know us more as well, but hopefully so that you can avoid these things in the future and don't have to go through the same type of things as well.
Yeah, and mine you'll probably laugh at. It might not be relatable, but that's quite funny. So who wants to go first, George?
You can go first. You've built it up.
Aye, okay. Right, okay. So like you've probably heard in previous podcasts, I started Pure Gym 2012. And like any, back then there was 10,000 members in that Pure Gym. It was
It's a lot.
Humongous because it was the only gym in Glasgow like that. So anyway, I picked up business really quick. Now remember, before that, I just came for like pretty much dirt poor. I was getting paid 16 grand a year to be in the Marines, which is not a lot. Joined the PT, started making shitloads of money, and decided, in fact, it's a few holidays it cost me, but I decided I was going to go to Vegas for 2 weeks. And I basically spent 6 grand in my money, come back for Vegas. Bear in mind, I've not seen my clients for 2 weeks either, just fucked off.
What did you spend the 6 grand on for context as well?
I can't tell you in a stat jokes.
To be fair,
gambling.
You're not or was it gambling?
Back then it was gambling.
Okay,
I wasn't a gambling addict. I still don't gamble. I put maybe 5 on a coupon or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because it's the first time I've been in Vegas, I was just like, wow, this place is amazing. Gambling, shows, firing guns, just all the mad shit you see me Americans doing, just like that. So spent an absolute fortune. Came back, I hadn't seen my clients for a while. 3 days later, I went to, was it Cyprus, with my then missus for a week. So that's me 3 weeks away from my clients now. I've just been on 2 holidays in the space of like in 21 days, pretty much. I had no money left for my gym rent. So obviously I was trying to sweet talk the manager at the time, like, I'll get it, blah, blah, blah. I've still got clients. Like, you can't, you have to pay your rent. I didn't have a penny. I wasn't willing to ask anybody because I was a bit proud. So anyway, I got no kicked out of the gym, but I got my notice and I left. So I'm looking for jobs. I'm looking Virgin Fitness and all that. Just everybody refusing me because the lies I was probably telling in interviews. I didn't want to tell them I'd spent all my money in Vegas. That's why I don't work at Pure Gym anymore, because I have to give experience. So I ended up getting a job in McDonald's, unloading trucks off the back of a McDonald's van at the stores, basically. Like back then it was like £7 an hour or something like that. So, and I could see PTs who I knew were like walking by just in town and like, why is Irvin taking like McDonald's trucks after? Which is fine if you want McDonald's, by the way, no issue with that. But for me, it was a massive change. Then after that, I was just pretty much trying to find my way back into the gym. I'm back to Pure Gym about 3 months later. I pretty much begged my way in. It was different managers as well. And all the PTs in the gym pure rallied to get me back in because I was like a laugh and I was a good member of staff and all that. And the members did like me as well. So I managed to weasel my way back in. And the biggest lesson for all that, it's not the money side, it's taking the business serious, because I didn't take it serious before. Yeah, I was coaching people. Yeah, I was making a lot of money, but it was an absolute shambles. Just a shambles, and I didn't take the PT business serious at all. When I came back, that's when I ended up like doing 50 sessions a week, which is still a shite business, but like I was taking it more serious at that point, and I became assistant manager, gym manager, which led us to here. So the biggest lesson was like, this is a career that I could really make something in. So if there's PTs listening who you think it's just a kind of hobby, but you want to make something of your life, and don't waste it, because it can all finish. It might not finish like mine, because that was my fault, but like, it can just end like that. And then you'd realise, you're like, fuck, I had something amazing in there and I just took it for granted.
Yeah. How early on was that? Like in your...
I was only a year in, mate. I was a year in.
Yeah.
So I think I started in August, and that was, in fact, that was the summer. It was July I went. July 2013, because Andy Murray won Wimbledon that first time then. So I remember watching it in Vegas. So it wasn't even a year. It was like 9 months.
Yeah.
Something like that, 10 months.
Yeah.
Just fucked it all, mate.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, like, you know, my story isn't as funny, but it happened early on as well. Mine actually happened before I started officially PTing. Like, I hadn't had any clients at this point, and I just decided to create this like boot camp. There wasn't really boot camps in my area, and there was a park like 5 minutes up the road. And I remember thinking of names for a business, and I was like looking at stuff, and you see it all the time these days. It's like people just put like, you know, like Iron Fit and like all these things. And I was like, what's something like random? It's different. So I was like, what about animals and stuff like that? So I was like, Fit Panda, and all these things are coming from my... Anyway, I stumbled upon Fit Monkey.
Well, it's still on your Instagram, your Facebook page.
I've still got a Facebook page like that's obviously unused for years now. But I went up to the local printing place and I got Fit Monkey, blue and black, put a little photo of myself in the corner, told a little bit about this boot camp, and then just found this like photo off Google Images of like a boot camp, people looking like they're having fun. And then I just went around the whole area, just like, I think I got 500. And like in my mind, I was thinking, you know, volume. Like the more houses I go to, the more people that will show up, right? Yep. That was the idea. So I remember going around to all these houses as well, and I was putting them through, and then like dogs were fucking like coming up and like, and you're like, fuck, I'll leave that house. And then you go up to other houses and it said like, you know, no cold calling and stuff. And I'm like, does that mean like, because I was thinking cold calling, is that just not folk phoning you? Does that mean like what I'm doing? So I was like, I'll leave those houses too. And I was just getting more and more kind of like taken aback and just like getting a bit like, well, is this the right thing to do? So I think I kept going a little bit longer, and then I was like, do you know what I need to do? I need to like speak to people, because I can speak to people and I can have like, tell them a bit about it and tell them the ideas, because there's nothing about. So I started ringing on doorbells and chatting to folk. And yeah, of course you got some people that just said they weren't interested, but there was actually no one that said like, you know, like shut the door in my face or like, yeah, nobody was like that. I think they actually, a lot of people just appreciated like the graft that was, you know, open and honest, and it was a local thing. It was like a local community. And I think that's maybe one tip from this as well for anyone listening, is like your local community are much more supportive than you realize if you start doing things for them and explain the benefits to them, not so much why you're doing it. You know, that was always my thing. Like I was saying, I'm looking at starting this new boot camp and it's free. And I always made sure that at the start, so they'd listen more. That's probably why they didn't shut on my face. And yeah, I just told them like benefits. I'm going to make it really fun. Like I'm not interested in, you know, if anyone's like super fit or not. Like I'm going to make it inclusive of everyone. You know, so it doesn't matter if like it's yourself or partner or family or friends or whatever. Anyone's welcome. And this is the start date. So anyway, I started going round and I got loads of emails. All these emails and all these people that said they were showing up. And there was 20, 30, 40 emails on the list. So I think the first one was free, and then I was going to start charging £5 a head. And then I was thinking, right, that's then, you know, if all these people show up and they come to the next one, then that's £100. And I'll get £100 for this like 45 minutes. And then anyway, I remember it was pissing it down on the first day. I think it was a Sunday or something. And I was looking at my window and I'm thinking, right, that's automatically going to reduce it. So maybe I've got 20, now it'll be 10. So then I went up there and I sat in my car, and then I started putting all the cones out and all this stuff. I just bought like 50 quid's worth of cones and ladders. And then it was getting closer to your clock watching and you're like, fuck, like nobody's coming. And nobody did show up. So no one showed up. And I thought to myself at this point, I was like, you know, you've put a lot of work into this. Like, don't just shy away from it. Don't just kind of like let this be like a thing where you just give up, because you're passionate about it. And this is just a little kind of upset. And I kind of just planned the session as if people were there. Like I probably looked a little bit daft. I wasn't like pretending to coach folk in that, but like I was going kind of in my head, like, you know, let's say there was 20 people. You know, how would these stations work? If they did that, then that, would that work in the time frame? Blah, blah, blah. So I got a lot of value out of it, and I maybe didn't stay for the full 45 minutes, maybe like 20. And then, you know, it kind of went from there. And the mindset I had when I went home, and my mum was like, oh, how did it go? I was like, well, nobody showed up. So she was like, I'll come to the next one. I'll come to the next one. But the mindset I had was like, nobody showed up. Like, if one shows up, that's an improvement. So it was just like this thing where I'm like, no matter what I do now, like I survived. Like, you know, you always have this fear of, oh, no, I can't do that because, you know, it'd be the worst thing that happens. I won't be able to show my face. But that was like the bottom point for me. So it kind of just, I knew it was only going to go up from there. And then the next week, it was just like 3 people. It was like my mum, my friend, and like some random or something. And then it slowly grew and grew and grew. Not to anything massive, but then that point I moved into pure gym. Now with this little bit of experience of rejection, I was like, I can deal with rejection now. Like I can speak to people and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And that made all the difference for me. And I think that kind of propelled me forward. And I'm glad that's why I asked you the question as well. I think it happened so early on for me that it made everything 10 times easier.
You can tell we were brought up differently. I could never do that.
Yeah.
What age were you then? 22 or something?
So I'm 27. I could been a
never do that,
PT
mate.
for 5 years. Well, I think I was like 22. I think it was about 22 when I started. So 5 years to now.
And that's why you're sitting here now.
Yeah.
Because of the experiences.
Yeah, and it's sped it up in that process for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of been a blur in that 4 or 5 years, but like it's...
Yeah. Think of Josh's experience in that whole situation and think of yourself in the gym if you work in a commercial gym, you're purposely choosing to reject yourself every time you don't talk to somebody in a gym because you're scared that they might tell you F off or ignore you if you say hello, when most people want you to say hello, how you doing, enjoying the gym. Conversation. It's called customer service.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's lots of lessons in that, mate, and I think that's one of it shows early signs of you as an entrepreneur and a grafter willing to put the work in.
Yeah, and I think you need it. I think that one of the big things that holds people back is they never put themselves into the position to be rejected, so they never know how to overcome it.
Yep.
You know, like once you realize that rejection is just part of life, like, you know, someone isn't going to be interested, you can't appeal to everyone.
Yep.
And once you understand that, then you can do it again and again and again.
Yep.
And it doesn't affect you as much.
Yeah. Two totally different stories, but
yeah,
lessons in both of them, which is good.
Yeah, one thing I said to Chris before the podcast as well, because I always remember when we did, like, we used to do these seminars for the bootcamp folk, and they were really popular. And again, no one was doing this in the bootcamp space, and this is why it kind of was so different. You know, we charged a premium, but we were also not just doing bootcamps, we were doing seminars and nutritional help and all these things. And we had workbooks and things. And I remember Chris saying to a member at one point about failure, and chatting about, like, this member was like, it's holding me back because I'm just worried, like, if I fail, like, what will happen? And you basically said to them, like, how do you know you failed?
Yep.
When you've not got any metric, you're not tracking it. So how do you know you failed? I think that always stuck with me. Yeah.
And it's true, mate, because a lot of people will just feel like they're failures. But what a failure towards what? Like, what are you failing at? If you don't have a target, how do you know you failed? If you, say, because we're doing fat loss boot camps at the time, so say Stephanie, whoever that is, right, made up person. There was a Stephanie actually, but it wasn't her. Say Stephanie's sitting there and she's like, Chris, I just feel like a total failure in the last 3 months. All right, Stephanie, what is it you failed at? Don't know, I just feel like a failure. I'm like, did you have a metric? You try to chase something? You try to build confidence? You try to drop a dress size? You try to get the measurements done? Not sure. Okay, so you've not failed at anything then. The one thing you have failed at is no fucking planning what you want to be, who you want to be, what person you'd like to be, what kind of mum would you like to be, what kind of role model would you like to be. And I think that's the same with coaches, mate. It's the exact same. They feel like their business is failing, but what? Because the guy next to you is doing 20 sessions and you're doing 10. So you've got to do anything. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's always lessons in there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, from experience in the years we've done this, it's often not, you know, failure to themselves. I think they can deal with the failure for themselves, actually. It's the judgment of others that holds them back. You know, it's like, what will my friends say, or what will my mum say, or what will people think on social media, or any of these things. It's like, you know, it's always the worry around, like, other people. It's not so much them. It's like, you know, some people are unfortunate in the sense that they have, you know, real naysayers in their circle, you know, and it could be the husband. Yep. Like we've dealt with multiple people, especially the bootcamp days, not so much more as time went on, but I remember in the bootcamp days, there was some people that would sign up and, like, I think you mentioned it in one of the other podcasts we did, and basically chatting about, like, you know, they were worried of if they bettered themselves, then they would maybe find a new partner or something like that. And we seen that loads early on. And there was a lot of women that, you know, we were like, that fucking husband, like, he's holding her back because she's got a lot of potential here, but he's trying everything he can to stop that from happening. Yeah. So, you know, it's a difficult position as a coach because, you know, we get into the industry thinking we're just going to start coaching people about fitness. But then slowly you start talking about mindset and you start talking about, like, behind the scenes stuff, and then you become a bit of a counsellor, and then you start opening up all these different areas you maybe weren't prepared for.
Remember the seminars we used to do, the same ones? We'd have workbooks and it'd be really deep questions and they're all sitting crying.
Yeah.
And we're like, shit, I don't know if this is a good thing, man. They're all crying. Or they're writing, but actually turned their life around massively because it was really deep coaching questions like, why do you want to lose weight? Like, who would matter? Who does it matter to if you lose weight? It's all really deep questions about life. And I remember there must have been about 50, 60 people there. At least half of them were crying.
Yeah.
Because how they felt at the time, but it was actually doing them a world of good, because when they were filling it in, that's like the journaling point we made on another podcast. It's like, once they're writing that down, they're like, shit, this is why I'm coming here. I need to change my life. I've been spending the last 20 years like doing the same stuff, like unhappy, no confidence, whatever the women go through. And I think that's one of the times that stuck out in my head in the boot camp was that seminar. Yeah. I don't know how we managed to fucking talk about seminars, big man.
I don't know. It's kind of this is a random one.
That's good.
But this is good. Again, it's a different element to it
Good
as well.
insights, mate.
Yeah, because I think people want to know us more and know the stories more. And I think that, you know, anything we've gone through is maybe something that you've gone through or something you might go through in the future. You know, they're very similar situations. And, you know, the last point I would personally want to make on the failure part is like, you know, the best asset you've got is to be yourself, you know, and that's what you know. So don't be ashamed of that. Like if you like gaming and stuff, like add an element of that into your content when you talk to people and stuff, because, you know, it'd be pretty cool, right? If I was into, I mean, we were all into gaming like Call of Duty and FIFA and that back in the day, but like if that was a passion of mine even still, you know, I'd love to work with clients that are into gaming as well. Imagine that market, like people that play their games but then have the posture issues and the health issues and they can't find like a partner and they don't socialize enough because they've not got confidence playing the games. But like if I was the coach that loves gaming but I never talk about it and I only just talk about like surface level stuff that every other coach does, imagine I started talking about how I balance my gaming with my fitness, and I talk about why I've gone for a run first and then I can play the game later and all these things, and now I've got a partner and kids. And do you not think other people that in the gaming community would look at me and think, he's cool, like he's the guy I want to look at and like be like? So then you can start to create like an amazing community of people like that. So I think don't be ashamed to be yourself, like put yourself out there, and people respect that. And some people, you know, 80-90% of people won't be interested, but that's fine. You can't appeal to everyone, but that 10% could be the 10% that becomes your client base, and then you work from there.
I don't think I've ever had a failure in my life where I didn't learn something from it, like at all. I've always took something for every failure I've ever had. I'm like, what can I learn from this failure? What's it teaching me? Because it's teaching you something. Like if we talk about the gym, we don't need to get into massive depths about it, but we tried to start the first gym. It was a big, massive kind of indoor boot camp. It looked amazing. We got it all set up. We paid money for lawyers and got all this stuff set up, and then we get basically crushed at the last minute by the council, who basically said there's not enough parking spaces. Plus you can't have a class 4 gym in this area. Some nonsense like that. Yeah. They wait till the last minute to tell you. We could have just collapsed at that time, mate. We just could have. But the lesson that I learned for that is like, what are we going to do next? Like my brain just went straight into like, we're not falling apart here. I remember sitting in your car when we got told, I think it was a phone call. Yeah. And we just looked at each other and went, what do we do next? And we just started working on a plan. Yeah. And for me, the biggest lesson there is when you have got a failure, don't dwell on it too long. Accept it, and whatever way you like to process it, but don't sit for weeks and months moaning about it and feeling sorry for yourself, because nobody's going to pull you out the hole except for yourself.
That's why we did so well in lockdown as well, because when lockdown was announced, like the same night or like the next morning, we had like live classes like already set up and like we were ready to rock. And members appreciated that. We didn't almost give them enough time to think. Similar to the story about the hill run. Yep. Like, just take action and learn as you go. You don't have to make everything perfect before you start. Yep. Speed is so important with all these things. Like, if you can just react and just like move forward in a positive way, you know, rather than dwelling and huffing and going all these things, because that's never going to change anything. Yeah. That's going to get you there much quicker, and it's going to help you.
Everything we've done has been like that. The boot camp was a case of you coming into the office saying, I want to run a boot camp. And I was like, me too. And then we just started planning everything right there and then. Yeah. Same with the gym. We just decided how amazing it would be if we had a ladies only gym to increase this boot camp, make it everything even better. Yeah. And then same with the mentorship. Lockdown happened. Mm-hmm. It must have only been 2 weeks in. We had all the classes set up for our coaches to teach them online. And then I think I was on the phone to you walking up the hill for Petrivi, and I said, let's try and start a mentorship. I was kind of dabbling in it for the Pure Gym days. Had a couple of wee private clients who I never talked about, I think, just because I knew them for Pure Gym. And I said, let's scale this, what I've been doing, and make it better, because mine was just quite like one-to-one personal stuff. It wasn't like what we do on a massive scale. And then for that day on, mate, we just got a name, a logo. Yeah. Started posting about it. I think the first maybe 2 or 3 weeks we had like 32 people on it.
Yeah, and I want people to understand this as well, and this is why we've done everything we've done in the last like 3.5 years, is just purely based on like, I remember the first logo for NitroFit, like I made it just because we needed one. I remember. And I just made it rapid, and then over time we changed it. You know, we got a proper logo and then adapted from there. But like, you don't need to have the perfect name. You don't need to have the perfect logo. You don't need to have the perfect idea. You just need to start. And once you start, you can work things out. And that's what we've been so good at all along. Like, we always, if something doesn't work, we change it, you know, and we'll be open and honest as to why we've changed it. But we do it because things are evolving. Things are constantly changing. Like podcasts and stuff, like if we don't feel like we're bringing enough value or it's purposeful, we'll stop it.
Yep.
And then we'll bring it back when we feel like we've got a structure and a plan with it, which is what we're doing now.
Yep.
So it's the same idea. It's like all these things take time. There's no point just grafting doing something if it's not working. And it's also no point like, you know, wasting time on, you know, other things as well. You just need to focus on what works and just drive with it.
And when
from
it doesn't,
there.
just change it, like Josh said.
Just change it.
Even if it's 100 times, obviously give it enough time to work. But if you know it's not working, it's not doing anything, change it. It's not working, change it. Till you find the method. It's the whole Thomas Edison thing, remember? We did 1,000 tests on the light bulb. And the very last one he did, before he made it, a big massive explosion happened inside the lab he was in with this other guy. And the guy's like, you nearly killed us there. Like, you literally failed again. And he said, no, I've just found the 1,000th way not to do it.
Yeah.
That was his attitude. He's like, I'm going to get this light bulb made, but I've just found out 1,000 ways not to do it. So now I know that doesn't work till I get closer. And that always sticks in my head, that one. That's brilliant.
No, there's loads like it. It's so important, guys, as well. And again, this is another topic we could talk all day on. But there's a lot of value in there. Again, if you like this different style of podcast, let us know too, because you know we've got plenty of stories and experience as well, and we'll always drop them in. But again, yeah, hope you enjoyed this one and give us some feedback. Let us know what you thought.
Yep, cheers for listening.
Cheers.